You may look like me, but unless you got a master morpher, you ain't nothing but a cheap copy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video from the Lavender Lab. My name is V, and welcome to Master Duel. Now, you've probably played Master Duel, but it has been a while since I have, and that is because I have been lying in wait for the brand new Super Quant support that was released in the TCG a couple of months ago to show up here. And now that it finally has, I'm going to show y'all a deck profile today. Now, this deck profile was not made with just my own skill, although I wish I could claim full credit. That was made with the help of the Super Quant Discord, which there is a link to it in the description below. I hang out there fairly often, but today we are going to be checking out this list that is just pure Super Quants to be able to see what they can do now that the support is legal. So, without further ado,
It's morphin' time!
if you have never heard of Super Quants before, they revolve around summoning this card, Super Quantal Mech King Great Magnus. There's going to be a lot of theming towards Power Rangers, because Super Quant is based off of Super Sentai, which is what Power Rangers is based off of. A bunch of multicolored crime-fighting heroes facing off against bad guys. And it is a whole lot of fun. They use giant robots, which you can see here are represented by these Xyz monsters, and they use what is called a Megazord, which is represented by Magnus himself. You can see right here, this art is absolutely glorious. And I am not lucky enough to have a royal of it just yet, although I am going for it probably in the far future though. The main deck of Super Quants is characterized by the layers. We have blue layer, green layer, red layer, white layer, and the newly released black layer, which are all how you tag into these Xyz monsters using the field spell or black layer's new effect. You can discard a card, target a Super Quantum monster you control, special summon for your extra deck a Mech Beast Xyz monster with the same attribute as that monster you control by using it as material. Black Layer, on the other hand, has its own effect. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Super Quantal Mech Beast Xyz from your extra deck using this card you control as material, and if you do, attach a Super Quant monster from your graveyard to it. Now, you have to have a monster engraved, but this is super easy to summon. It also has another effect where if it's sent to the graveyard, you get to add a Super Quant spell from your deck to your hand. Now, there are not a whole lot of good Super Quant spells. We've got Super Quantal Alphan Spike, which I can show off a little later. We have Super Quantal Mech Ship Magna Carrier, which is the field spell that allows you to also summon Magnus. But now we have the new Super Quant spell, which is Layer 19 Sudden Incursion Super Quantum Black, which has 3 separate effects. All of them are fairly useful depending on the deck you're playing, but so you can see here, first, target an attack position monster on the field, change it to defense position. Then, if you control a Super Quant monster, you can special summon one Super Quant monster from your deck with a different original attribute from monsters you control in defense position, and you can set one Super Quant trap from your deck. It can be activated this turn. You can only use one of these effects at a time, but they are separately hard once per turn, which means if you have multiple Layer 19, you can use multiple effects, which is really, really cool. There's a third part to this trifecta of new support. We have Super Quantal Fairy Zaytan, aka Super Quant Circular. This card says if you control a Super Quant monster except another copy of itself, and this card is in your hand, you can special summon it, then make this card's level the same as a Super Quant monster you control. That's a good effect on its own. However, we also have, you can tribute this card and send a Super Quant card from your deck to the graveyard except a dark monster as cost. Special summon one Super Quant monster from your deck except another Fairy Zaytan. Super Quantal Fairy Alphan is one of our starters. Once per turn, you can target a Super Quant monster you control. All monsters you currently control become that monster's level. That's niche case usage, but the second effect is you can tribute this card, reveal 3 Super Quant monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks one for you to special summon to your field and send the rest to the graveyard. We consistently get up to like Chainlink 3 or 4 when this effect resolves and we haven't done other things on the turn, which is a whole lot of fun. Finally, the other layers that were already released, we have a very easy search effect with blue layer on summon and a graveyard effect to recycle our Super Quant cards. Green layer says you can special summon a Super Quant from your hand on normal or special summon, and then if it's sent to the graveyard, you can discard a Super Quant to draw a card. Red layer is if you control no monsters, you can special summon it from your hand for free, and then when it's normal or special summon, you can target a Super Quant card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a Super Quant monster in your graveyard except another red layer, and special summon it, but it cannot use its effects. Finally, Super Quantum Whiteler says you can send a non-light Super Quant from your hand or face of field to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand in defense position, and then when it's normal or special summoned, you can send a Super Quant monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's attribute and level become the same as that monster's. And then if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a Super Quantal Fairy Alfan from your deck or graveyard to your hand. We have 2 Effect Veiler, 3 Droll and Lockbird, 2 Super Quantal Fairy Alfan, this card is endlessly searchable within our different combos, 3 Super Quantal Fairy Zaytan, this card is also fairly searchable, but it also is able to be used as an extender in niche cases, which is why I play 3. You have 2 Max C, because it's semi-limited, and Max C is Max C. 2 Super Quantum Blue there, we have another card that can summon this from the deck. 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. 1 Super Quantum Green layer, we have Super Quantum Red layer at 2. 2 Super Quantum White layer, 2 Super Quantum Black layer, 2 Nibiru because this card is a little bit bricky, but I do love Nibiru in certain situations, especially in best of 1. We have 1 Super Quantal Alfan Spike. This card has a crazy on-field effect. You almost never use it. You are almost always dumping it to the graveyard and using this graveyard effect. 1 Super Quantal Mech Ship Magna Carrier because in all honesty, this card's not that good. However, it is necessary to summon Magnus, and so therefore we have to play it. But it is still a fairly cool card. We have 3 Emergency Teleport, which special summons a level 3 or lower Psychic monster from your hand or deck but banish it during the end phase, and that allows you to summon Super Quantum Blue layer from your deck, which is really, really convenient. Finally, we have 2 Called by the Grave and 1 Crossout Designator for the Max C minigame. We have 3 Layer 19 Sudden Incursion Super Quantum Black, 1 Super Quantal Mech Sword Magnus Slayer. Now, you probably, if you are looking to play this competitively, should go down to 2 Layer 19 and cut the sword entirely. I'm playing the sword because it's funny, and you'll get to see some of the funny victories I'm able to pull off with it in occasional situations. However, this is more of a personal preference because I want to have a little bit of fun with it. You really don't need this because there are other ways to kill using the generic extra deck, and you can probably just add in more hand traps or more of your starters like Blue Layer, Alfan, whatever you want. Finally, we have 2 Infinite Impermanence because, another hand trap that's also a fairly good card going first, which we can take advantage of, especially with Magnus. These combos are fairly easy. I recommend checking out myself as well as Plus Infinite's combo guides on how to run Super Quantums. There's overview guides, there's combo guides, various different ways of playing the deck. I highly recommend it. 1 Super Quantal Mech Beast Grampulse, this is the Blue Layer mech. We have 1 number 75 Bamboozling Gossip Shadow. This is a generic level 3 that can serve as Nibiru protection. You can also play things like Chronomaly Vimina to play with Super Quantum Red Layer, but you don't have to. We have Super Quantal Mech Beast Ouroboros. This card is a little bit more situational. However, it is the green mech that you can also take advantage of using Black Layer. We have Super Quantal Mech Beast Magna Liger. This is probably the least summoned mech. However, you still need it in a lot of situations, and it's still fairly good in a lot of situations too, because it allows you to just pop a monster. It's one of the better effects on the Super Quantal mechs. Then we have Super Quantal Mech Beast Luster X, which is the white mech, and this is easily our easiest to make mech because it requires level 7 monsters, both of which we have that summon themselves. We have Super Quantal Mech King Great Magnus, which sadly I don't have a royal of. You can see that it has an amazing graveyard effect to revive your Mech Beast Xyz monsters. And then, what this card does, if you have never read this card before, at 2 or more materials with different names, during the main phase once per turn, quick effect, detach a material, non-target shuffle a card on the field into the deck. Very strong effect. At 4 or more materials with different names, it is unaffected by card effects except for Super Quant cards. And at 6 or more materials, your opponent cannot add cards from the deck to the hand by card effects. This is stronger than Droll and Lockbird, probably the bane of most current meta decks' existences. We have 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder, which is Zeus because it's very strong and very, situationally useful if you need to use a mech or something like that. We have Nightmare Phoenix, Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, Promethean Princess Bestower of Flames, World Sea Dragon Zelantis, and Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. But this is just an OTK package that uses fire monsters, and conveniently we have fire monsters. We have Super Quantal Mech Beast Magna Liger and Super Quantum Red Layer, which, funny enough, the Promethean Princess can actually revive a red layer to trigger its effect and get discard fodder to use with the field spell to make Mech Beast Magna Liger, which is fairly convenient if you need to get an extra mech. You then link into Raging Phoenix using 2 or more fire effect monsters, into World Sea Dragon's Atlantis, which can do some OTK shenanigans, but regardless, it does just get rid of the fire lock that Promethean Princess places you under, which is very convenient. I have IP Masquerena and SP Little Knight. However, I only recommend really keeping SP Little Knight unless you really just don't know what else to put in there, like I didn't. But because the Super Quantal Mech Beast Xyz monsters cannot attack unless they have material. So in order to convert your spent empty mechs into something useful, you can actually link them off with a monster into SP Little Knight, and it's a very convenient thing to be able to do. Finally, I'm playing Dark the Dark Charmer. Just because it's the best of one format, there's going to be a lot of dark monsters that are floating around in various decks. You can make good use of it. Our first match is going to be up against, I don't know yet, because it's Master Duel actually. So you can see we're playing 1-for-1 here. We're pitching the Droll to summon Alphan. Very easy way to bait out hand traps. We can go Alphan Tribute to then select black, white, and red. We summon white here. That is the traditional Alphan combo. And you can see we get a ton of searches and effects. Red layer to revive black layer, white layer can mill from deck, and black layer can add a spell. Baldrake is going to activate here from our opponent to be able to banish our black layer. So we don't get the revive, but it's all right. We go white layer, dump another white layer just to get the graveyard effect easier. We can then use that white layer to add an Alphan, which is great discard fodder. We can go layer 19 here for blue. And you might notice in my deck, in this, I only have one Zaytan, so I already have it. I decided to go normal summon green to get to Alphan, then we can activate Zaytan, and you only really need one Zaytan in a lot of combos. I just recommend playing more. However, if you don't have the UR Dust, it's fairly fine. We're going to go red, add back to layer 19 for follow-up. Alphan's Spike can banish itself to get the field spell, and from there, the field spell can pitch various cards to then summon out our mechs. So you can see we're going to go white layer for Luster X first. We can then go field spell, pitch the Crossout Designator. A little bit risky because Nibiru right here, but it's all right. And then Ouroboros can be summoned to the field. Then we have Alphan. Alphan target the blue layer, make everything a level 3, and attach Grampulse. Grampulse can then be summoned, and Ouroboros can attach the red layer as material. We can then go Mech Ship Magna Carrier, targeting our 3 mechs. And there we go, the summon animation of a lifetime. We can then attach the mechs to Magnus, and that way we have an 8 material Magnus plus the layer 19, which on our opponent's turn we can use to summon Super Quantum Black Layer, and then immediately go into another Mech Beast Xyz. We have Magnaliger here because that's the only mech we did not summon, and attaching the red layer from Graveyard, so it is now a quick effect. They have Bystial Serenir, and so there they have 2 level 6s. They go normal summon Centurion Primera, which then is synchroed off into the level 10 Chaos Angel, because I did not think this through until it was too late. So now we're fighting the Chaos Angel. They're going to fail to read Magnus. They're going to trigger Serenade to mill a Bystial or Branded. They have Bystial Lubellion in the grave now. They tribute the Baldrake to then summon the Lubellion. However, before it activates, we are going to use our Magnaliger Pop, detaching the black layer, to then pop it, and now that it's gone, now black layer can grab us another layer 19, and this layer 19 is going to be doing something funny. They'll activate another Baldrake, banishing the black layer because they have not paid attention to our combos, and I guess they don't have much to do at that point. Centurion Trudea is going to be placed, and Centurion Trudea is then going to activate to place Centurion Atri, which is going to summon itself, and thankfully, there's not another thing here. Red layer is going to trigger in the grave once Magnaliger is destroyed to just bring it back again, because, you know, it's free. And most of our other stuff in our graveyard was banished. We can then go draw. There's an Ash Blossom. That's pretty convenient. Layer 19 is going to then set the Super Quantal Mech Sword Magnus layer, which is a whole lot of fun, and also an out to Chaos Angel. I normal summon the Ash Blossom, and we are going to go into an SP Little Knight to try to force some things out. The SP Little Knight is going to hit the field, and then that is going to banish Atri, but they are going to actually tribute Atri, which doesn't make much sense, because then we can go SP Little Knight, banish itself and Baldrake, to then protect the SP Little Knight. So now they're just down to the Chaos Angel, which is fine, because now we can just swing in for a little bit of damage. And importantly, Mech Sword Magnus Slayer also does piercing while it's still equipped. You can send it to the graveyard for extra attacks, but we're not going to do that right now, because currently we're just trying to fight the Chaos Angel. And if we can just keep our opponent from breaking the Magnus Slayer, then we can use it to constantly deal damage into our opponent. They're going to go straight to battle phase and deal some damage here, which is fine. They're going to go for another attempt at the Lubellion, and actually I end up allowing it this time, because they are going to just place the Branded Regained, and they can't draw with it. They're going to synchro with the Primera into the Crimson Dragon, and my friend led me astray here, and realized that this synchro is unaffected. So this Magnus effect is nothing. And unfortunately, they led me astray thinking it wasn't. So sadly, they are going to be able to summon the Ruddy Rose Dragon. And the Ruddy Rose Dragon is going to banish every card in the graveyard, but not before we get a White Lair trigger, which is fairly useful because it gives us some extra follow-up. I should have added something from the grave probably, but I couldn't. There was no Alphane in the grave. So all of our Quant names and everything involved and everything is gone. Unfortunate, but we don't really need it at this point. We just need to keep playing. So we draw an Infinite Impermanence, which is our Chaos Angel out, because Chaos Angel is unaffected by monster effects, but not spell trap effects. So I go ahead and set there. I should have set it in the regained column, but it's fine. And then we are just going to hope that they can't do anything. They switch their monster to defense position, and now we reach the end game. We now have a Lair 19 in our hand. We can go Infinite Impermanence on the Chaos Angel. That makes all of these Synchro monsters able to be destroyed by battle. Swing in for 24. Magnus Slayer send itself to give extra attacks. The second attack into the Chaos Angel, and then the third attack for not lethal. They have Druis Worm, and sadly we can't do anything about it, but we can hold it off for a turn. We can basically make it so that they can't do anything at this point. We have Lair 19 for extra safety, and now we're just sitting on a Magnus. And they can't actually do all much of anything at this point. So now draw phase into the E-Telly is just extra, where they now have an Ash Blossom to stop the E-Telly, and because I'm afraid of another Bestial name, so I really want to try to recycle the trap for extra attacks. However, that doesn't end up being necessary. They trigger the Bestial Summon, but I end up going Magnus to spin it. And you can see here that the spin will turn off the Branded Regained. And then I try for Lair 19. We don't have much in deck. Red Lair is going to be on the field, adding back to Lair 19. However, I don't have enough names in deck, so we just swing in for lethal with Magnus. Now, our second duel of the day is again going to be going first. I don't actually have a clean game of going second just yet, but trust me, this is not the last time you'll see Super Quant stuff on the field. They drop a Max C on us, but we have Fairy Alphen and Fairy Zaytan, and we also have a Droll, which is very useful, except you might be curious as to why I would Droll myself. We have things like the Blue Lair Search and the Black Lair Search, but I don't think we need it. Because see, we can go Super Quantal Fairy Zaytan, send Lair 19, summon Red Lair, add back the Lair 19, which I forgot I had one in hand. I could have played this better. However, that just goes to show how useful this deck is. We summon the Black Lair here, Black Lair, Red, White. We hit the mech, and now we can summon it. White Lair is going to trigger, adding the Alphan back from grave. Again, could have been a little bit smarter with that. However, then we have Red Lair to revive the White Lair. And from here, the only issue is we don't have field spell access, which was my one mistake. I should have gone Zaytan, summon the red, and then send the field spell to add back. You can see we make Luster X here, and then we can equip the Zaytan, and then from there we have Lair 19 to then summon green. Green effect is going to be able to summon the Alphan in our hand, which we cannot get rid of the spike either because we can't discard to draw a card with green. So Erebos is going to show up right here, and then we are going to have two mechs plus an SP, no, not an SP Little Knight, an IP Masquerena, which isn't bad. You know, all things considered, this is an end board through our own Droll, as well as the Lair 19 for a Black Lair afterwards, which is really, really useful. We get Lava Golem, but we get to trigger a lot of effects here. So we can pitch the spike, we can trigger the red, and now we can do the Lair 19. I decided to just do it now to provoke anything else. They don't do anything, so we can go ahead and summon the Black Lair. And then green lair is going to draw us a card. We draw the ship, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's all right. We revive the white lair just as an extra body. The black lair is going to then make us into a Magnaliger that can attach the red. And they don't have an answer for that. After all of, through the lava golem even, under a max C into a self-droll, and there's not much they can do about it. Words cannot express how excited I am about this. We now have the entire Super Quant archetype at our disposal in a best of one format, and we can take full advantage of Magnus ourselves now, which I am super happy about, and I highly recommend y'all devote some time to playing, because this deck is not honestly that expensive. Only a couple of URs are required for the actual list, and you only need one of each of them if you really want to get on the cheap side. But that's for a future video. With that being said, I want to thank all of you for watching. My name is V from the Lavender Lab, and I will see y'all in another video. Peace.